Hey everyone, this is my review for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. After rewatching The Rise of Skywalker, I really like this movie a lot more than I thought I did. I don't know if it's just the fan service in some of it. And it's funny because my top three are all the third movies in each trilogy. I don't know what draws me to these third movies and trilogies. I feel like just because it's the culmination of everything that's happened in that trilogy. I'm giving this an 8.5 out of 10, tying it with Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith beating out Rise of Skywalker is just because it's so much more nostalgic in my head. So I think if it wasn't for that, it would probably be Rise of Skywalker number one. I just really like this movie. I don't know what it is. I rewatching it today, it just kind of blows my mind a little bit. I feel like part of it is not only is it the ending to this trilogy, it's the ending to the Skywalker saga. So this film takes place, I believe, about a year after the end of The Last Jedi, which I feel like is very needed in this trilogy because, it's Force Awakens and The Last Jedi happens almost like the same week after The Force Awakens. So I feel like there's no time in between movies for the events to kind of sit within the universe. So yeah, I like the fact that there's at least a year jump because, between A New Hope and Empire, there was some time. And between Empire and Return of the Jedi, there was like 2 years, I believe. It's a 2 year gap when Empire ends and they get Han back in the beginning of Return of the Jedi. I feel like the biggest criticism of this movie is that everybody says how it just jumps from like place to place, event to event. Like there's no in between. There's no like travel in between. It's just they're on wherever their base is at. I don't know if it's Yavin or not, but they're there, and then they jump to Pasana, and then they jump to Kijimi, and then they're jumping to being in the ship, and then they're jumping to being back wherever. I feel like everyone says it's just here. It's so fast paced. This movie is trying to fix a lot of the things that fans didn't like about The Last Jedi. There's things I didn't like. I talked about in my review, and just how Ryan Johnson subverted our expectations. Got it right there. I know that's kind of a waste of a movie and like what $200 million budget for The Last Jedi, but I mean we're talking about fixing things and kind of getting the story to where it should have been going instead of being subverted. So there's something that I was starting to say in my Force Awakens review that I stopped myself from saying because I didn't want to spoil anything for this movie review. I'm probably people have seen it by now, but for those who haven't, in The Rise of Skywalker, it's quote unquote alleged to, I think that's the right word, that Finn is force sensitive, and it's throughout the movie. And after the movie came out, people were talking about it and how I think JJ came out and said that when they were falling through that sand pit on Pasana, that they were gonna be that he was trying to tell her he's force sensitive, not that he loves her or anything. But it's foreshadowed to in my eyes in the very first film because in The Force Awakens, in the very beginning, when Kylo is down on Jakku and he has his stormtrooper army or squadron, whatever, platoon with him, and Finn has that feeling in him to not shoot, and that connects in The Rise of Skywalker because he's talking to the main lady from the Endor, wherever they are on Endor. So they're talking about they had this feeling, and now that we know Finn is force sensitive, rewatching the movies, there's like little subtle hints going throughout the series that he's force sensitive, and that's like the first thing when I saw that I was like, whoa, like maybe that's something awakening inside of him, like he's doing the wrong thing here, so that's why he chooses to not shoot. And I don't know if there's something else in this movie. I think it was the part where, or in The Force Awakens, where he has the lightsaber, and it's kind of like he's trying to use anything but the lightsaber because I feel like he doesn't understand that feeling inside of him. So he grabs a blaster when Maz Kanata's castle, whatever you want to call it, is getting bombed, and he reaches for a blaster to use. And I feel like that's because he doesn't understand that feeling inside of him. He's uncomfortable with it, so he wants to use the blaster. That's what he's used to. He doesn't understand the force or lightsabers or anything. So that's something that I caught that I've been like waiting to connect to this point. Did I think the way Palpatine went out was cheap? Yes and no. Because everyone's saying, like he's had his lightning reflected on him before. That's what deforms him in Revenge of the Sith. I just feel like, okay, this is like my one criticism of the movie, that the ending was so built up with Kylo coming back from the dark side, turning to the light and becoming Ben again, and getting to Exegol and taking out the Knights of Ren, which I thought was amazing. I think that sequence was the most prequel-esque kind of fight scene with Kylo like kind of flipping around and stabbing the one knight in his chest. And I just, like him taking on all those people at the same time, it kind of made me feel like I was watching the prequel kind of fights. Did they all have lightsabers? No. But it just gave me that feeling. But, so I felt like him fighting the Knights of Ren and then going and catching up with Rey, just to get thrown off, like that kind of bummed me out that it wasn't like a combined effort to take down Palpatine. It was just Rey versus Palpatine, and I honestly didn't think that Ben had to die in this movie. I feel like his Kylo Ren / Ben was such a great character arc for this trilogy, and I did not want to see him die. When he died, I was kind of bummed. Oh, I wasn't kind of bummed. I was bummed because I did not want him to die. He was like my favorite character of this trilogy. I understood his character from The Force Awakens all the way to the end, and I don't think he deserved to die. I felt like Lando was underused in this movie. Like he was underutilized, and he could have, not that he could have done more, because I feel like his character does enough, but I know when they announced that Billy D. Williams would be coming back as Lando, that I felt everyone thought he would have a lot more screen time. I think that partially has to do with Carrie Fisher passing away, because they couldn't have him interact with Princess Leia because obviously she's passed on, Carrie Fisher's. So what did I think of Rey calling herself a Skywalker? I'm not against it. When they announced the title for this movie, there was a lot of speculation saying that is Skywalker, meaning that's what they're now calling Jedi. Is that like the new Jedi, or is it like what they're going to be known as? Because like the Jedi are quote unquote not dead, but there's no such thing as Jedi anymore. They're all called Skywalkers. So I get it why she calls herself a Skywalker. This movie talks a lot about identity throughout the whole thing. Pieces like when Dio is talking about who he is, like that's a very small detail, but that goes with the theme of identity. And the biggest part in the end when Rey says she's a Skywalker, and just throughout the movie, like learning she's a Palpatine and blah blah blah, and like there's obvious points in this movie where they're talking about identity. I don't understand the flack that a lot of people are giving this by saying she's a Skywalker. For what it is, I think that The Rise of Skywalker did the best job that it could, or they want to try and take control because they think it's what's best. When I think JJ, who made The Force Awakens, knew what was best for that movie, and now Disney's going to have this distrust with the Star Wars franchise, regarding directors, because it's like, you made one pretty good movie, you made one movie that split the fandom, then you have the last movie of the trilogy that's trying to make up for that split fandom. I think it's a great movie. It could have been way worse. I remember hearing about the initial reviews that people were walking out. I don't understand why people would walk out of this movie. If you're looking at it from a strict perspective of what he had to deal with and kind of retcon a couple things. For example, when Luke caught his lightsaber on Octu, and it was like, that's not how you treat the weapon of a Jedi or something like that. It is like, that's a straight shot at The Last Jedi. People can deny it, but it's a straight shot. There's just certain things like he had to kind of retcon. It's not JJ's fault, and I know when the movie came out and people were saying like, on Twitter talking about JJ, saying JJ's over kind of party thing. Like the whole cancel culture is down. He did. I've said it like 3 times already. He did the best he could with what he had to deal with and what he had to kind of make up for. And it's hard to please people, especially with Star Wars. It's such a like, I don't want to say legendary property, but it's iconic. And the Last Jedi split the fandom. And it's hard because you're going to get like maybe half of those people who were like, I'm never going to see Star Wars the end to come back. And then you're going to have people who are like, oh, well, I got to see how this ends. I thought it was a great movie. At the end of this video, I'm going to put up my list of my order of how I think the movies are ranked personally. Like I said, the top 3 are Revenge of the Sith, The Rise of Skywalker, and Return of the Jedi. Those are my top 3. I think what else I had in my top 5 was Empire and what was the other one? I think A New Hope is number 5. But I definitely think that those are for sure my solid top 3. And rewatching it just made me want to bring it up even higher. I think the next time I watch Rise of Skywalker, it's going to have to take number 1. But then again, I said this in the beginning, and it's on my channel. It's known I'm not a movie critic at all. That's how I feel about these movies. I'm not a hater in any aspect. I love all the Star Wars movies. Some I like more than others. Star Wars is Star Wars to me. And I know there's a lot of people who will probably give me hate for saying that, but Star Wars is Star Wars. And I am not prejudiced against the prequels, the original trilogy, or the sequels. Do I think the sequels could have been handled better? Of course they could have. But for what we got for those 3 films, I'll take it. They weren't bad movies. They just lacked structure, that's all. I think that's all I got. This one's going to be a longer video because I'm a little more passionate about it because I just watched it today. I know this this review is gonna go up late. I wanted to have this done for the morning, but I fell asleep watching the movie last night. I was so tired, and I finished watching the Clone Wars 2 today. Oh, that was a sad ending. But that's it for my reviews of the Star Wars, the Skywalker saga. I don't know what I have one movie that I'm gonna put a review up for that I have pre-recorded, but I wanted to wait till the Skywalker saga was done. And then I'll have to see what I can watch next because I don't know. There's some good stuff I think coming out on Netflix, but I'll see what else I can find. Maybe some more Tarantino. I don't want to stick to just Tarantino or Star Wars. I want to have a nice variety of films. My next one is not a Star Wars or Tarantino film. Don't worry. But thank you guys for watching. Those of you who do, please like this video, leave a comment. I want to hear what your thoughts are about the Skywalker saga, about movies. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time on the next review.
Hey everyone, my hat looks kind of weird. I think that looks better. I don't know. I'm gonna rate this an 8.5 out of 10, tying this with my, it's tying with Return, words. I'm so excited to talk about this movie.
But
and she's saying they had a feeling like that they were doing something wrong. Sorry, my alarm went off.
in this movie, oh.